Welcome to Screen Chat. I'm Neil Bashins, and this is the show where I sit around with friends and talk about film and television and pop culture. With me, as always, is Garth. It's Warren. Warren Nightingale, how's it going?
Pretty on, Neil.
Today we're going to talk about, we've talked about this before, not on the show, I don't think, to talk about, just in general, kind of film marketing and trailers. This was put back in my brain recently again. About 2 weeks ago, the trailer for the new Top Gun movie came out.
Oh, yeah.
The first trailer for Top Gun Maverick.
Yeah.
There's a few things to talk about here. One thing is, we'll get back to it, put a pin in it for now. One thing, it's a year ahead of time. This movie doesn't come out for a year, and they've already dropped a full-length, 2-minute trailer.
Yeah, and it's,
so way too far ahead of time.
Yes.
But that's a whole other issue maybe we'll get into later.
Yeah.
This trailer, when I watched it, as a trailer, and when we talk about trailers today, we're going to talk, we might talk a little bit later on about kind of how they relate to a good trailer for a bad film. No idea, obviously, if this is going to be a great film, a good film, an average film, a stinker. The trailer is amazing. It is perfection.
Well, it's, I may be hard-pressed to say perfection.
Okay.
But what I will say for it is we're kind of in an interesting era where you can really draw upon nostalgia in a way. Like, as soon as the beginning of the trailer hits that, I don't know, the bell from the song,
the tone from from the opening of the first Top Gun.
Also, right away I'm like, I can't wait to see this in the theater. I can't wait to experience this as much, the speakers and the experience of being in a room and having that, because it's taking me back to my childhood.
I think this trailer is 80% nostalgia.
It is.
You couldn't do that with every movie trailer.
No.
Things for a brand new franchise that don't have that nostalgia. That's why I kind of say for this film, for this trailer, for me, it was perfection for what it is as a sequel that will come out 35 years after the original.
Maybe
the trailer, to me, was perfect because exactly what you said there, the nostalgia. Yeah. It opens with that tone.
Yeah.
And it repeats it a few times.
Exactly, and already you're kind of like, and in of itself, like when the opening of Top Gun, and
that's from the
right from the very beginning of that film, it sets a mood and a tone in the film itself, and now 35 years later to draw upon that, and I would say another recent trailer that is the new Stephen King one that's coming out this fall. Dr. Sleep. Dr. Sleep.
Yeah, also recalled things of the original.
And so it's leaning into and borrowing from, and it evokes these emotions that we have from these films that we either love or shudder or be afraid from, and it strikes really, really deep. And then also when you add a few images, such as coming back to the Top Gun trailer where, let's say Tom Cruise on a motorbike. All of a sudden you're just like, oh God, I can't wait to see this.
That's what I think. This thing just builds. Like we said, it had that musical tone, and it hits a few, and there's a voiceover from Ed Harris.
Yeah.
Kind of running, basically just reintroducing us to who Maverick is. That we know it's 35 years later, he's still Maverick. Yeah. He's still out there busting the rules and whatever. And
same helmet too, apparently.
The same helmet. and then we get an image of just a jet flying over the desert, basically just almost scraping the ground, and we don't see Tom Cruise's face yet, and it's building, and this tone is just building slowly, and then all of a sudden he cranks the controls and the jet flies up, and all of a sudden we get the Admiral Ed Harris is like, and why are you still just a captain, and why are you, and then we see Tom Cruise and he drops a cool line, it's just one of life's mysteries, sir. And then it just starts rapid fire with the images. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh yeah, no, I'm just listening, and then it goes into the
full Top Gun theme starts playing,
right,
but if you pay, like, I've watched this trailer probably 20 times, no lie.
Okay.
But when you start looking at the images, and almost all of them are callbacks to the original film.
Yeah, like they're playing volleyball.
Well, they're playing football here.
Oh, is it football?
He's twirling a football, but that's exactly like an image of them twirling.
I was waiting for them to do like a little high five.
A high five.
I was waiting for the voiceover to have a need for speed.
If you watch closely, it looks like, I'm going to assume this is the character. This is Goose's son, played by Miles Teller.
Okay.
He's in a Hawaiian shirt, wearing shades, looking identical to Anthony Edwards from the first film, and playing a piano and rearing his head back. And it absolutely looks like they're in a bar playing Great Balls of Fire. Like they've totally recreated that scene.
Yeah.
We see a classroom of pilots outside in a hangar.
Oh yeah.
And and the motorcycle.
Like that's sunrise.
Like that part. That part you said there, where he puts on his jacket
grabs
and
the
then grabs his sunglasses and then rips the tarp off the motorcycle. And it just, to me, it felt also very meta, kind of like, yep, we're taking this back out for another ride. Here we go.
Yeah.
And then it's him whipping along beside, the runway as a plane takes off, doing that thing from the first movie. And I'm like, yep, they're playing the hits. They're like, yeah, we know we're taking this out this is another out of retirement tour, but we're going to play the hits. And there's going to be some new stuff in there. But for this trailer, they knew exactly how to sell it to me. They're like, yep, here you go. I don't even want another trailer for this.
Yeah, and it evokes those emotions, right? Like it brings us back to when we first experienced it, and when these movies sort of defined for us. Something similar to this would be Blade Runner, the last Blade Runner.
Yep. The trailer was very
Of course, the film really did lean into the look and feel and sounds
atmosphere
and music of the original, and to see that again, I was just like, okay, I'll come back to this world for a little bit and see what it is. And that's kind of interesting that we're kind of in that sort of cycle that I'm not sure if historically, if we ever had a period like that before, where it's sort of, and again, same with Blade Runner. Blade Runner was equally, some 35 years before the latest film. And so it's kind of like, we're giving these sort of shouts to these films.
Now, here's the thing. I don't like,
and we're borrowing upon the marketing that was done then, and just kind of repurposing it. And it's sort of like we're having this sort of Pavlovian response
to it. And now that's great for guys of our age.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
and people of our age that we've seen, like we have an ingrained already pre-existing love of the original film.
Yeah.
So, and all of a sudden, just thinking this off the top of my head as we're talking here now, and these lean so heavily on nostalgia. But I wonder, it's too bad we don't have somebody here that is younger and doesn't have that connection. What are these? Does this trailer work for somebody who's 20 and hasn't seen Top Gun?
Well,
does this make them want to go see this movie?
I can't, as not being
like
as somebody who's maybe in his latter 20s right now. Maybe not.
To reference to call out to Blade Runner, like you said, Blade Runner 2049, not a phenomenal box office hit.
No.
So that marketing did not make new people want to go out and see it. We won't know for a year what Top Gun will do. Top Gun might have the additional thing that Tom Cruise is right now in sort of like another cycle of being a huge Hollywood star and a huge draw just on his name.
Yeah, another one that comes to mind is Ghostbusters from, was it last summer or the summer before? I can't remember.
Oh, that's like 3 summers back.
Was that 3 summers
like
back?
2016, I do believe.
Yeah, so there's another one in that sort of same, different genre, but kind of that sort of same element where, here's a film from the mid-'80s now. We're finally doing a sequel how many years later? But
not really a sequel, sort of more of a reboot.
Yeah.
And now they're doing a sequel of it.
Yeah.
Not of the reboot, but they're now calling back to the original one. They're trying that out because that one didn't work out so well for them 3 years ago.
I think where it probably does play very well is maybe if you're going into the Pixar world, like or Disney world.
Those ones,
like, let's say like for
Toy
example,
Story
Toy Story
4,
as well as we had Incredibles I guess a year ago. And of course, Aladdin plus.
I think
Lion
those
King
are sort of different in.
Well, I would say it is definitely different, but I think it plays well for a younger audience now, just because I think those films get recycled so much in families.
Mm-hmm.
So people who grew up with those films, let's say grew up with Woody and all the characters from Toy Story, can now take their children to. And have probably shown
their own children the home videos of these along the way.
Exactly.
So they have that as a built-in.
Yeah, exactly. So that I would say that definitely works for a younger audience. And if Disney, of course, we talk about them lots. They have just an advantage of marketing in all kinds of different ways. And I would say that's the one thing that they probably can be looked at in terms of being masters and being able to build upon what their own products over and over and over again that they do.
They're probably like 8 out of 10 they hit. Thing is with a one like I think you could say it of both Top Gun and of Blade Runner.
Yeah.
The original films are very of their time.
Very much so, yes.
And might not even resonate with a modern audience. But that we will see these.
Yeah.
Because of not to the nostalgia, they are Blade Runner is a really good science fiction film.
Yeah.
It influenced everything science fiction that came after it
100%,
for probably 2 decades. So a lot of people were getting off on a bit of a tangent, but I don't care. That's the way it goes. A lot of people probably, people that have maybe younger that have never seen the original Blade Runner, if you went back with and sat and watched it with them now, they would all of a sudden recognize things, but they would have a familiarity, but from other films that came later, and maybe they weren't aware of the original. Top Gun is very of the moment.
Yeah.
Top Gun is of a very specific time in the latter half of the 80s that if you make that film a year or two later, it probably doesn't work.
Well, definitely it is.
And I wonder how it's going to do it because it's very 80s. And I wonder, once we get to the film, the trailers can ride on the nostalgia. Is that what the film's going to try to do?
I certainly hope not, because if it's just kind of, parading out, the same film all over again, well, then what's the point of it? Like, I
wonder. There's
enough to be said in the first one. Do we really need Maverick to come out and basically be... Okay, if his character has not changed in 30 years, like what's interesting in watching that trailer, of course, is when, at the end when Tom Cruise speaks, here's Maverick with a whole lot of lines on his face. Like he's aged. But the last time we seen him was this, just young and arrogant and just, grab the life by his tail. And now we're seeing a Tom Cruise that is, at the very least, we're seeing a Maverick that is a little bit more reserved and sullen. And so what is that story? And what does that story need to be told now for this point in time is what's got me curious. So if all of a sudden it is just a retelling of, of the original story, but we're plunking, just the name in there, then that'd be a huge disappointment.
It would be. Although I wonder if you can do a thing, strike a balance where a lot of the same beats are the same, are there, but the story around them is different. Like you're like literally almost not retelling, but looking at a lot of the same themes of Top Gun, but through the eyes of the guy that is aged 35 years.
Yeah.
That, and there's a next generation coming up and, Goose's kid and this, that, other thing. I don't know. But the film can't rest solely on nostalgia if it wants to succeed at the box office. But the trailers can.
The marketing, for sure, And plus there's enough iconography around it that I think people can get excited about it. Even if they haven't seen the film, they've seen enough.
It's another one, again, that is very penetrated in pop culture.
Oh, aviator glasses.
Feel the need for speed and, he's inverted and whatever, but... All this stuff is like Top Gun has become memes and stuff like that in the modern age. So I think, again, younger people can watch it and they'll recognize things. They'll be familiar to them even if they haven't seen the original source. You referenced a couple minutes ago Dr. Sleep. Now that's one that when I watched that trailer, I almost feel like a lot of that imagery that they're pulling from the original Shining film.
Yes.
I would bet an admission. I'll bet you a film admission, a movie admission, if you want to take this bet.
Okay, put it on the table.
That when we see that film, that I'll bet 90% of that callback imagery happens in one sequence. I'll bet it's some kind of a nightmare or something that adult Danny has.
Yeah.
And that they're almost using that to market it very smartly, knowing, ooh, this is kind of cool. This will kind of get us back to because I don't think the story goes back to the Overlook Hotel.
No.
I don't think it's just doing all that. I think it's a very different storytelling in that world of these people that have the shine and all that. And I think that they've smartly thought, you know what? Nostalgia will make people come out to this. And so let's take, and they, who knows, maybe they even created that sequence in the film just as almost like trailer moments going, we're going to have Danny have a drawn out remembrance of the Overlook so we can use all that imagery in the trailer.
And I would love that if that's what it is.
Let it be its own thing. It doesn't have to be just a retread for me.
And even if that's just in the trailer, just with little moments like that, I would certainly be okay with that. Again, there's a trailer that I want to see in the theater. Like if it's also playing in front of something, I'm going to go watch that film.
I'm the same
largely for the trailer. Because
I'm the same with Top Gun. I just want to see it in front of a movie right now.
I want to hear those horns. I want to, evoke those emotions of watching The Shining all over again,
and seeing the blood coming out of the air, out of the elevator, and all that.
Yeah, that'd be fresh for me. Am I going to take that bet? No, I'm not. Because I have not that I've read the book at all, but I imagine that it's not going to really be anything about about Danny and the Overlook Hotel, as much as it would be just maybe like a sequence where he's having a dream, or all of a sudden it sort of resonates, whatever the story is about, all of a sudden it sort of brings back, and so now there's a sequence where it is. I can't see it being anything beyond that either. So,
and see, now in contrast to those types of trailers that are calling back older films, trailers nowadays do annoy me for new films in that studios seem to have this mentality, or the marketing department seem to have this mentality that they need to give away almost the entire film ahead of time. That they need to tell us everything about it. Because if audiences the first weekend are surprised by something that happens, that's going to equal a negative reaction, and that's going to kill the box office.
Yeah, it's like they don't have faith in the fact that they can sort of create a little bit of intrigue and interest in it without actually having to show, okay, no, you're going to laugh. Here's 3 sequences that we promise you that will be funny, or here's an action sequence. What drives me absolutely crazy is when I'm watching a trailer and I know we're getting close to the climax of the film, and all of a sudden I'm getting flashbacks of what the trailer is about. I'm like, oh my God, we haven't seen that scene yet, and that's how this is all going to end. All of a sudden the trailer totally gave away where the story is going.
And sometimes it'll give away the twist. Can you imagine, like, if the trailer for The Usual Suspects had given away the ending?
Yeah.
Which nowadays, like, I think if you're putting that movie out now, they'd probably like hint at that in the thing, or Fight Club.
Yeah.
You see, if you were putting out Fight Club today, I'd be afraid the trailer would sort of tip you off that he's like, that Brad Pitt and Ed Norton are the same guy.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert for a 20-some-odd-year-old movie.
22 years now,
yeah.
I think. Yeah.
A great example of this happening, and we watched some trailers just previous to doing the show, and I specifically picked 2 that were connected. And it was an original early teaser for Terminator 2, and then later the full theatrical film. The first one is a thing that they used to do, and I haven't seen for years, where they shoot a trailer that is not footage from the film.
Yeah. And special shoots,
a special shoot so it's not giving away anything, and it's just basically saying, "Here's coming this thing,"
which is my favorite. Like, to be honest, I'd rather watch a special shoot because it's not giving away anything that's in the movie.
The second trailer, the full theatrical trailer, fully gives away the twist that Arnold Schwarzenegger is the good guy and not the bad guy this time out. With now, this movie is almost 30 years old. Nowadays, people don't realize what a big deal that was because Arnold's been the good guy Terminator in all the subsequent films. But no, in the original Terminator film, Arnold Schwarzenegger was the villain. And then that if you watch the second film without the context of knowing what's going on, it's a huge flip moment where him and Robert Patrick face off, and all of a sudden Schwarzenegger's there to save Ed Furlong. Yeah. And they totally gave that away in the trailer. Like, straight out said it.
Yeah, and of course nobody now would even really think about it just because that whole universe has gone down a pathway where that Terminator is sort of the
good guy.
The good guy.
Yeah.
But certainly the original Terminator was such a dark film, and he was such like a badass villain that certainly when that movie came out, what, 91 or so, that would be a big twist. Which is again,
it's weird. I imagine at the time it must have been studio panicking because in Schwarzenegger's career, Terminator was one of the early films he did, and he was cast as the villain. After that, he started playing hero roles in like Predator and Commando and whatever else. So I'm kind of guessing. I'm kind of guessing that this is like the studio panicking, going, "Well, we don't want people to think Arnold's the bad guy. We want them to know that they're coming to see an Arnold action film." But they wrecked. You totally wrecked that. What would have been an awesome twist. Can you imagine if
in the theater and all of a sudden?
Or imagine this. Imagine going back to 1980 or 1981, and in trailers for Empire Strikes Back, have the "I am your father" line.
Oh,
if they gave that away.
Yeah. No, that would be.
Imagine if this is the greatest twist of all time. But imagine if they gave it away in the marketing.
Yeah.
So they do give away, and like with the Top Gun one, this is now a year ahead of time. So we know we're going to get a lot more trailers for it between now and next year, and they're just going to start, I imagine, giving away the entire thing. It's very frustrating to me.
Yeah.
To the point where I try to avoid trailers, but we go to so many movies that I end up being basically forced.
And sometimes you see the same trailer over and over and over again. Mm-hmm. And what I find frustrating is when we get trailers for films that never actually do make it to our market.
Oh.
And that's, yeah.
What was that one that we didn't see a trailer, but we saw posters for Cold War, and then it did turn up at the end.
Yes,
we did manage to see Cold War last year.
There's a few examples.
There's been a few ones that
Cold War was one that was driving me crazy because when the nominations came out, and it was, had 3 nominations, and including Best Picture and Best Cinematography, and it's just like, oh my God, like, were we going to get this or not?
Yeah, no, that drives me nuts. What do you think? Is it? Should the filmmakers, should the film directors be involved in the marketing materials, in generating the marketing materials? Like I'm saying, is it good that it's taken out of their hands? Like, the marketing people are obviously, you don't want to take their job away from them, and they're selling a thing.
Yeah.
So they're going to make it. They're going to do what they got to do to sell it. And nowadays, that mentality seems to be we're going to show people everything. Or there'll be times like with like traditionally when you talk about like hardcore science fiction, it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. It almost always fails at the box office, but then the marketing people mismarket it. Because they're like, well, we can't sell science fiction, so they sell it as something else. People go in, see something that's not what they expect, gets crappy word of mouth, so nobody goes. So it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy there. Annihilation was one I think came out a year and a half ago or so.
Yeah.
And it was marketed to look like a ripoff of Alien, and it's nothing at all. And it's not at all the film that it was. And I was tipped off to it by a show I watched on YouTube. So I went and checked it out, and I'm like, yeah, this is not at all what the marketing was. So do you think filmmakers should be allowed to have a hand in saying, no, like, I want you to sell what I made and not give away my twists and whatnot?
Personally, I think that they should, certainly. Just because I think they could pull from it. Again, coming back to like my favorite stuff is when you don't see too much of the film entirely, or if you do see things that usually it's early in the film. Early in the film,
or like rapid images with no context.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I would say, actually, we just saw Once Upon a Time in Hollywood today, and one thing that I was thinking about, most of the stuff that happens in the trailer does happen in the first, I would say, 20, 30 minutes of the film. And so I appreciate that because you get to a point going, okay, you know what, this is, now I'm ahead of the trailer.
I've now seen it. Yeah, I'm ahead of it. And while today, like, I was not super high on that film that we saw today, but I thought the marketing was good. And the trailer sold me. It made me want to go see it. And it did very well in that it gave me the flavor of what the film was going to be. So I did not feel my less than super enthusiastic reaction to the film is not based on the marketing.
No.
I didn't feel like I was, sold something that wasn't there. It's what they sold. Just I didn't like a 2 hour and 40-minute version of it.
Yeah.
But I thought the trailer was really good.
Yeah, and I agree. The trailer it was very intriguing. It's such. I'd go on to say that the film, the greatest asset to the film is its era, which it depicts the production values and the production design of the time and place that the story takes that unfolds, which was very front and center in the marketing and the trailer, which made me kind of excited to see it. Plus, two, just drawing from the people of that time. And all of a sudden seeing them on screen in a way, it was kind of, okay, it was very intriguing to see how that all comes together. And of course, we can go on and debate about whether or not the film...
that's for another day.
But for the marketing, yeah.
And you couldn't do it with every film. But Quentin Tarantino, as a filmmaker, tends to very heavily create the environment, the atmosphere, or the tone of his film.
Yeah.
So the marketing had that to draw on because they just said, hey, this is the tone he's created, here's the thing, and they were able to give you that and fill out a trailer and sell you on it without having to tell you the story. You sort of knew, they just said, okay, just the vague setup, but I don't think anything in that trailer told me what the arc of that story in that film was going to be. So I was just, I'll come for the tone and see what happens here.
I guess as we're talking about this, something that's a thought just popped in my head is that so many of the films that we get made, and certainly the ones that get the budgets behind them, are basically from franchises or products that have a deep history, whether it be with the company or whether it be in a comic, and so there is a lot there they can draw from in terms of how they can market it, and certain beats that they want to show people to get them excited about and make them say, okay, I have to see this film. So that when, let's say, another film comes out that is completely original, maybe they have to try and, to draw upon that sort of level of intrigue with people. They feel like they need to show more. Where for me, my own personal taste is no, show less.
Yeah.
Let me, give
me a little taste. Give me the appetizer. And then give me that little taster bite, and then I'll come in for the whole meal.
Create some, curiosity. Create some intrigue, do that sort of old carny kind of, I'm walking through the fair and all of a sudden, you have a poster of something and I'm like, okay, you know what exactly is that? As opposed to, show me the majority of the show. They're just worried about selling and getting people in their butts in the seat the first weekend. Yeah. Here's a question, because I don't know the answer. I'm trying to think here for a second. Straight to streaming videos now. Things that end up directly on Amazon or Netflix or whatever, pick your platform. Do any of these services push out trailers for things that they're getting direct? Well, I know
Some do. I'm thinking.
And
I remember seeing a trailer popped up on YouTube in my queue, or somehow as a suggested for me, a trailer for The Boys, this show that's on Amazon Prime, started last weekend.
They did a huge push on YouTube where the advertisements were a direct address to the camera saying, "Oh, hi, I'm so and so from The Boys, and I'm just going to show you a quick clip from the show." Now, of course, I was clicking off of as soon as I got the 5 second, now I can skip the video. I was usually hitting that, so I didn't see too much more than that. But definitely there was that, and I know on Netflix they definitely have trailers for their stuff.
But what does it air in front of? Or is it just on as you're going through the menus?
Just as you're going through the menus. Now, sometimes you can hit trailers for movies that's not there, so it was not a true trailer. It'll just show you a clip with some music, and it's like, okay, that's kind of strange.
Yeah, that's what I normally notice on Netflix, is they're just...
who's making that?
Somebody just curates a few clips from this film and puts some music behind it, and it just plays on a loop.
Yeah, so that's not really a true trailer. But they have made trailers for their self-produced stuff, I've seen.
I'm trying to think if I've ever seen... It would be reverse of their whole concept to put trailers in theaters for Netflix things.
Yeah.
Because they think nobody goes to the theater. Here's the thing. I like seeing movie trailers. Like, before the movie, to me, it's kind of like... Even going back to when I was a kid, it was exciting. It was like, we're going to see a couple of what's coming up, whatever. Would you take... Would you, for a discount on your Netflix, like, say if they said, we're going to charge you $2 less a month, but we're going to run a 90-second trailer in front of any movie you turn on. Would you take that? That you can't skip.
I would probably do it even if you didn't offer me $2.
And if they could somehow make an algorithm that you couldn't even fast forward through it. So you're basically compelled to sit and let the trailer play out through before your thing starts.
Part of the movie...
for a discount.
I'm the person that when I was watching, like before streaming, and
I just sit and watch trailers.
Even before I would watch a movie, I would I watch a few trailers before I sit down and watch a movie. Like I'll stick a DVD in and watch either trailers from that DVD or another DVD before I watch the movie. And so for me, that's an easy leap to make, to say no. I'll watch trailers, because to me that's part of the experience. And when I go to the theater, I'm disappointed if all of a sudden Disney doesn't have a short cartoon in front of the film. Yeah, because to me, I see that as value add. And yes, trailers are commercials, but I still enjoy them enough where I will enjoy watching them. But where I do get frustrated is when there's actual commercials before films. Yeah. And so if Netflix has said, okay, now you have to watch...
that I wouldn't want.
Yeah, now you have to watch, a
Coca-Cola commercial.
Yeah, here you go. No.
You and I actually play trailer bingo.
Yeah,
before the film, whenever we're going in, we sit there and we bet back and forth. Okay,
we'll try to name a trailer. Yeah, I love trailer bingo.
Did I even hit one today? No, which one? Oh, I thought Ad Astra was going to play, and it didn't.
Yeah, we didn't do our full lineup.
No.
Usually we limit ourselves to 3 each. Okay, you pick 3, I pick 3, and we'll see who gets bingo.
I think we were walking right into it, though. Yeah. Like, it was almost, we didn't really have time, because we were kind of a little late getting into it, because we had a previous show that ran almost at a time.
Now, we did see the Joker trailer today.
We did, yeah.
And of course, I imagine you've seen that before. A
few times, yeah.
What's your reactions from that trailer?
I think I like it as a trailer. I think it's doing a good job, because I don't feel like I know what the story of the film is.
Yeah.
I feel like they've thrown a few hints at me that whatever this character is that's going to become this version of the Joker, he basically, his life somehow just spirals down until he snaps. And so I think I see that in the trailer, and I see them creating some what looks to me like I like Joaquin Phoenix as an actor. And so I think they show him doing some, Joaquin Phoenix-y things. You know, he's going to kind of really dig in. So from this trailer, my takeaway from it is, it's going to be a story of a descent into madness, and it looks like they've let Joaquin Phoenix act. Like, they're like not trying to control him. They're kind of like they've cast him. When I first heard him being cast in this, I was interested in, like, okay, here's a guy who will make some choices and bring something to the role and make a new thing. And the trailer says to me, we've let him do things. And so I'm interested to go watch him act for 2 hours and see what they do with this interpretation of the character. So for me, a good trailer. Will the movie be good? Who knows? But the trailer, I think it's pretty decent. What do you think?
It's a very similar reaction that you have. To me, I got a stronger sense of what that world is. When they announced that they're going to be doing a Joker film, I wasn't totally on board. I'm like, really, do we really need that at this point in time? Where watching this film, it definitely seems to be quite enriched in, its feeling that there's a, like, even just the way the characters are dressed, like the fabrics of the film, that seems to be like just leaping off the screen. Like there seems
very early 80s look to it.
Yeah.
Very gritty. Looks like it was shot on a grainy film stock.
Yeah, and there's
a film with a little dirt under its fingernails.
Yeah, that's what it really feels like. And certainly you get the sense that he's going to be portrayed as a sympathetic character. There's shots of him taking care of what would be looks like an aging mom.
A mother, yeah.
So I imagine, this is probably, we're going to be sat with the origin of Joker being somebody who's probably sympathetic, and then kind of, pushed into this world where, this is kind of where chaos is the only thing that sort of makes sense for him. So I find it intriguing enough, certainly.
I would say not unlike Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I feel the same thing of where I've gotten a sense of the tone.
World. Yeah.
And like, a couple story beats of it's going to be a story about this, but then it doesn't tell me the arc. So it's like, this is sort of what you're in for. And if you like the sense of this, come on in and see what this does in 2 hours.
Yeah.
And yeah, they sold me a ticket. I'll go see the Joker.
Yeah.
What's your favorite trailer? And throw out just a randomly here. Do you have a favorite of any era? Just something that really, for some reason, resonated for you, or you remember at the time really piqued you up. You're like, holy shit.
Well, for me, growing up,
you can have more than one too. We can bat back and forth here for a bit.
Some good trailers. For me, growing up, so like around age, I would say 8, 9, I was watching lots of HBO. Mm-hmm. And so trailers, it was kind of interesting, and I won't belabor the story too long, but essentially in the community where I lived, we had for a short time some free access to HBO, but we didn't have any kind of guides. So this is way before the time of internet. They could look stuff up, or it was even in the local paper what the feed would be in terms of what movies to expect. And so during this time, it was, to know when something was playing or what is playing, you'd have to actually sit down and watch the channel to see what movies are coming up. So it relied heavily on the trailers themselves. And so trailers of that era really kind of sort of stuck with me because, whatever feelings they evoked, they would, evoke in my 8-year-old self quite handedly. So something like, for me, one that's always stuck with me is Alien. Mm-hmm. Just the creepiness of, as the camera's panning down through space, of seeing the egg. You have these high-pitched emergency sounds, and Ripley running through the hall, the hull kind of the ship, and with all these flash quick cuts. That's something that's always stuck with me, and I would say for me, just because of how much that is over time has always been quite something I could easily sort of draw back to. I would say that was probably a pretty impactful trailer for me. That one, because I remember watching going, oh my god, what's this about? I want to see it, but I'm kind of scared to see it, but I'm really intrigued about it. It looks really good, but at the same token, it looks like something that might give me nightmares.
What was the first time you ever saw Alien? Do you remember?
Oh, it would be around then. Yeah.
What was your reaction? Do you remember?
Oh, I was creeped out. Like, again, I was 8, 9. Creeped right out. I was
Yeah, I think the first time I saw it, I would have been about the same, 8 or 9, and Corey, my brother, would have been like 18 months younger, and we were on a family vacation heading out west someplace and stopped off to visit friends. Like, I think it had been an old boss of my dad, and we stayed with them, and they had like a Laserdisc player. And he had it on Laserdisc, and basically like the, adults were in the kitchen or in the living room, just, here having drinks, drinking wine, whatever. And they took me and Corey in the TV room and said, hey, what do you want to watch? And we're like, what's Alien? What's that? And they said, yeah, sure. They threw the Laserdisc on. And my mom and dad had no idea what it was. We had no idea this was like an R-rated film. And I don't remember, I don't have trauma from it, but I'm sure it must have, maybe it freaked me and Corey out, or maybe we were just too cooled out by it. They were like, this is cool and also scary as fuck. But it was like, wow.
Yeah, well, even just the starkness of the
just for some reason, I can very just specifically remember watching it in Okanagan there.
Yeah. Well, and I think, trailers in those ages use sound really well.
Yeah.
Like, it just...
I like that in the trailer. A good repeating sound, like you said, like in the Alien trailer. I can remember too the scream, like so the like an emergency beacon or something like that.
Yeah, the emergency beacon.
Same as like we spoke at the top here, the tone in the Top Gun one.
Yeah.
Inception. Inception has that tone, that belonging horns. Yeah. It's not in the actual film. That is solely created, but so many people think it's in the film. But apparently it's not. It's just created in the trailer. But such an effective trailer. Again, Inception was a really great trailer. That sound then became, intertwined with the film to where we associate with it. And you call it like the Inception horns or the Inception bong. But another great trailer.
Was a great trailer, yeah.
It, again, just gives you a sense. Visually, you're going, holy, what is all this weird ass shit going on? World, yeah. But no idea of what the actual plot line is.
Yeah.
But sold me more than one ticket.
And definitely nothing that gave away what the story is and what the turns are.
Not at all.
It really is just a bit of exposition to kind of explain, what the best virus in the world is as a thought in someone's head or something like that.
I almost wonder if the marketing people didn't know how to market that. And they're like,
well, they probably
just show the weird cities folding over and some action and the spinning hallway, and then we'll just roll. Okay,
yeah, exactly.
I think that one sort of
and close up of the water, kind of.
Yeah, which is not to say that hey, sometimes
less is more.
Yeah, less is more. And the marketing people, sometimes they're like, we don't know what to do with this. Well, let's do this, and it can still be a great film, where sometimes they sell it wrong. But, so Alien, hey? I'm going to say I'm going to jump a little more recent for one to throw out, though, but I remember getting really, really excited for the Dark Knight trailer.
Oh, yeah.
Because Batman Begins, I really liked it. Batman Begins kind of came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
I hardly remember even seeing a trailer for Batman Begins in the theater. Saw the movie, and I was blown away. I was like, oh my God, I love this interpretation. And that was like when I was just starting to like fall in love with Chris Nolan as a filmmaker. I was like, oh my God, I think I like everything this dude does. And then I remember seeing, I was in BC visiting my folks.
Okay.
And it would have been, I think, in December-ish. Yeah. And I saw I was on their computer at night, whatever, and I saw on whatever sites I would frequent, a trailer for The Dark Knight, the new Batman movie. I'm like, I'll watch this. Okay, cue it up. And I was like, holy shit. And I think I watched that trailer like 5 times in a row and like emailed myself a link to it so when I got home I could watch it again. I wouldn't make sure I would not be able to find it. I was like, holy crap. That was the original trailer. I remember for that just being really awesome, and again, didn't really tell you what the story was, but you just saw some really cool beats. You knew Joker was in there, which was really awesome. You saw them flip a semi-trailer and stuff, but I remember that one being one that I got really, really excited about.
I remember watching that one because at the time people were a little bit like, well, Heath Ledger's going to be the Joker, and just watching and going, is that really Heath Ledger? Because he was so immersed in that character. His voice didn't sound like him. He didn't have the look of him. The Joker looks so different from any Joker we've seen before on screen that I was just so fascinated by that.
That trailer was a pivot point for the internet because, like you said, prior to that, so many people were like, Heath Ledger is the Joker. What the hell is this going to be? And the moment that trailer dropped, it's like everything pivoted on its head, and it's like, Heath Ledger's the Joker! Yeah. And like now people like since then can't imagine anybody else.
Exactly, and it sort of defined what the Joker looks like now for everyone, or at least one of the stronger images of the Joker that I would say that rises to the top before all the others. Another trailer.
Yeah, throw another one out there.
Let's see. Another trailer that really sticks with me.
A favorite one, or even just one that if you got a story about it or something that it brings up something. I got another one in my brain all of a sudden, but
ones I really like is when I walk away, I'm not sure what to think about it, or that sort of has its own time and place, and then it sort of take a life of its own. Like one for me that I think about is the Spider-Verse. And when that first came, I was so intrigued by the animation of it and the look of it and things like that. And it really was, I would say, it's hard to say now, but at the time it came out, it was actually pretty quiet. Like it was almost more of an enthusiast type of, either you're a Spider-Man enthusiast or let's say a filmmaker or a film enthusiast. That was sort of where it was gaining traction. And of course, by the time the film came out, it was a huge hit. It was definitely in people's consciousness. But when the trailers first came out, like a year before, it was kind of a little bit more, I would say, it wasn't like a huge thing that a lot of people were talking about.
Nope.
However, with time, it certainly gained a lot of popularity. Same thing I would say with Guardians of the Galaxy. When that trailer first came out, a lot of people were kind of, I'm not sure if this is really going to be something. But I remember just being really intrigued by the music, all the throwback 80s and 70s music that was in it. I was going, okay, this is going to be kind of interesting. And so to look at it now is a much different reaction from when watching it the first time. And so for me, what's always kind of interesting is kind of how something can kind of be redefined, by how it sort of gets through the machine of people. Where now just be able to like a Guardian of the Galaxy trailer, that one, and not even just think about how people are anticipating that not to be a hit. So, but favorite trailers. Another one that comes to mind for me is Requiem for a Dream.
Okay.
Just a lot of split screens, a lot of heavy action, and the film so dark, and the music that sort of supports it just being so strong that it really did. Again, one of those things going, I'm not sure what I'm going to make of this, but I have to see this. What about for you?
I will have one that has sort of an anecdote to seeing it, to getting excited about it, was the very first, and this you got to go back to probably 1998, and the internet was very young.
Yep.
And very slow.
Yeah. Dial up.
Yep. And you would sit and watch, it would take a while for the trailer to load up, 30 minutes. And Corey and I sat in the basement around the family computer because the very first trailer for Star Wars The Phantom Menace had come out. And so we clicked on QuickTime at the time, which is the thing where you would watch movie trailers, the Apple movie trailers on QuickTime. And so we were loading it, and we were waiting, and we were waiting, and we would then hit play, and it would play whatever it had compiled to that point. So we watched the first 5 seconds of it, which all you got was the Lucasfilm logo. And then we waited, and we're trying to be patient, and we waited about 10 more minutes, and we didn't leave. We just sat there talking. We're like, okay, let's hit it now and see how much of it is now. And so then we saw about 6 seconds of the trailer and just what? Shit. And we catch up to the bar again. Okay. Yeah. So now we waited. And I think we might have been down there 45 minutes waiting for it to all load up and watching this thing in 6-second increments. And then finally we got to the end and we could watch the whole thing through. But at one point we've seen half the trailer and we're like, oh my God. Oh. So now we can hardly wait. Don't hit it yet. We'll barely get 2 more seconds of it. And just sitting there and really getting really excited about it and watching that trailer. And the first trailer was pretty good. The movie ended up being terrible. I can't stand that film, but we were really excited about it. And by the end of it, it was yep, I will totally go see this. This looks awesome. We're very excited about it. And I think we just had fun watching it and doing this goofy little nerd thing that kids nowadays have no concept of. And me neither. Now, if I have to wait 5 seconds for a thing to load up, I start losing my mind. But
out of here.
Yeah.
Yeah, even though the signal's bouncing off some satellite going around the Earth.
Yeah, how dare it take this? My life is so hard. I got to wait for a movie trailer.
Yeah, as you're talking about it, reminds me of the Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring trailer.
You know what? That was in my brain a couple minutes too. Are you talking about that one that came out a year ahead of time?
It was so interesting. Them just walking.
Just them on the road?
Just them walking over the ridge on the mountain there.
Okay, that's not the one I'm thinking of, but go ahead.
Well, I just remember them walking and
okay, so an actual trailer.
Well, it was more of a teaser, I would say, than anything. But it was them just sort of each character kind of taking its moment of screen time as they would sort of walk.
Yep, the hero walk.
The hero walk, yeah.
Yep.
And they sort of walk into frame a little bit. And I just remember just seeing New Zealand in the background and them in their dress. And it was just okay, I cannot wait. And that's all it was.
I remember that.
And I was so excited by it.
A year earlier, it came out strictly on the internet. But they did it, I think, because they were they didn't know what they had on their hands. They didn't know if people were going to respond to this or not. Yeah. And they put out 20 or 30 seconds, and it's just the scene where the four hobbits have rolled down the hill and they walk out onto the road, and you get that really cool, it almost looks like a dolly zoom shot, and the leaves are blowing and whatever, and because the horse is about to come, but you don't see, and you just see them, and just see whatever, and they hide. I don't even think you see the horse. I think it's just the three of the hobbits kind of huddling around, like, some vegetables that have fallen out of a bag on the road, and then Elijah Wood, Frodo, just all of a sudden gets the creeps and stares at the road, and you see, like I said, like, I don't know if it was a dolly zoom, I'm trying to remember now, or what kind of shot it was, but it's just and that was it, and they put it out just as a, because it was kind of like the only thing they had done or something, apparently, or they're like, let's put this out, and just to see if there's a reaction to people, and people were like, oh my god, and the internet went like, oh cool, fun, hobbits, Frodo, and then they were kind of like, okay, maybe this is going to be a thing. I don't even know if it was up to 3 movies at that time, or if they were still, oh no, that one was, because they went into production doing 3, but yeah it was kind of like, I kind of think the distribution company might have been like, we don't know if this is a thing or not, and just sort of wanted to test the waters. And that test went. But I do remember that hero trailer that came later on with the walking over the mountain. Yeah,
with the wind blowing their hair, and
which is like an iconic shot in the film itself too.
Oh, absolutely. But I just remember watching, going, okay, I cannot officially wait now until we see this. So.
And we have some fun stories about that first film, but that's for another podcast.
Story, yeah, we'll save those stories.
Yeah, we can almost do an episode of just fun. We'd have to get Alex on, because Alex and I have some great film stories too. A great one for us was Terminator 2.
Oh, okay.
Actually, to call back to that, we talked a few minutes ago. Alex and I have like a whole thing, and I don't know, maybe you can join us this fall. We've already got a plan going in place where we're going to go see Terminator 2 or Terminator Dark Fate, probably multiple times.
Okay.
Just because he and I saw that, like, I think, I can't even remember what the count is now. It's one of the first films I saw multiple times in theater, and I think you'd have to confirm this with Alex, but I think we actually also, like, we saw it twice back to back. Like, we stayed at the theater and watched it a second time. So, and I think we're going to go to where we would have seen it back then was Kelowna Place.
So you're going to go back.
So
to KP?
we might do a nostalgia lap back to KP and watch Dark Fate there, just for fun, to kind of bring it back, 30 years later. But so you got another one?
Ordinary People.
Ordinary People.
Have you ever seen the movie?
I can't recall. I don't think so.
Robert Redford directed. Mary Tyler Moore is in it. Donald Sutherland and Timothy Hutton. And the trailer itself is Pachelbel. It plays the music, and it won Best Picture that year.
Okay.
Over top of Raging Bull, believe it or not.
Wow.
Yeah, 1980. And the trailer itself is extremely strong. Because essentially the storyline is how this family is dealing with a tragedy, and they're kind of all sort of falling apart. And the music, it's one of those things that, with the music being very sort of that solemn and usually used at weddings, and the imagery is these sort of intense sort of internal moments as well as external outbursts. It creates this really interesting kind of dynamic. That one's always stuck with me too. I think that was probably one of the best trailers out there.
When you just said Robert Redford, it kind of tweaked my brain. I remember last year when we first saw the trailer for The Old Man and the Gun.
I love that trailer.
And I thought it was a fantastic trailer because it was an absolute throwback to 70s trailers.
Love that
it was
trailer.
A full-on, it was like, wow, this trailer stepped right out of the 70s, and the whole film felt like that. So another one there where we can say it really evoked the tone of the film, really, and I think
he's so charming. He is charming, and exactly. Even the film stock, it looks very much like something out of the 70s. The titling looks like something out of the 70s.
Yeah. But more trailers should do that, where they try to capture the tone.
Yeah,
just give us the tone. We don't need to see every single thing happening.
It doesn't have to be 2 minutes. It doesn't have to be 3 minutes. It can easily be 30 seconds. That's
terrible
enough.
Examples are currently today. We both went and saw what is probably like a bit of a guilty pleasure. Whatever. Another one we saw today was Hobbs and Shaw.
The trailer was actually pretty good.
It was, except there was 8 of them, and they would show entire sequences of the film in it. To where, like, today we were watching a couple times. I'm like, okay,
here comes this part.
I know what this gag is all about because I've already seen the whole trailer here.
Yeah. Oh, we're down in Samoa. Okay, now I know all the Samoa scenes that are coming up.
I would say.
We're getting close to the building.
At least half the major action scenes or gags were given away in the marketing.
Yeah, but again, the trailer was quite effective. Like in terms of It made being playful.
It totally captured the tone,
and it certainly
it just gave too much.
Yeah, and there is certain I'd have to say that people who do make trailers now are pretty skilled, where they'll take things, music to make it its own, like, which makes me think of this. Of course, there's a sequence in the trailer where there's, each of them scaled down a building in their own way, and they're playing, because, he's taking an elevator down, and just playing a little bit of elevator music, and they're using their interplay, which is not how the sequence rolls out in the film.
The music is different.
It rolls out in the trailer that way, which
they use the song, Why Can't We Be Friends?
That's right.
And then when you're seeing Jason Statham in the elevator, it was like a Muzak elevator version of it.
That, yeah. And then in Spider-Man Far From Home, they use the Ramones, I Want to Be Sedated, in a very good way.
Right when Ned gets stunned, right?
And Ned gets stunned, and all of a sudden it stops, right? And then some Nick Fury. And so I do like those elements when they do take the trailer, and they seem to, like, people who are doing the marketing now seem to do a very good job of that, where they make its own thing. Where I get less enthused is when trailers feel like it's just a cookie cutter, where it's basically been put together by, okay, we're in the 30 seconds. Okay, now we need to have this scene, and then we're going to have a close-up, and then we're going to have this scene because that's the way trailers are made. Yeah. And now let's put in the title. A formula. And then when you see the formula and you can switch out any titles and any scenes and you don't even know what film you're watching anymore, that's when it hasn't become very interesting. So I appreciate when they at least do something playful like that.
A weird one that goes back a few years. But it was at a time when Warner Brothers, with their DC Comics movies, were really scrambling because Batman versus Superman had come out and had tested, like, audiences had reacted very poorly. It had a big box office run, but the reaction from fans, like critical reaction, was extremely negative. And then next up in the pipe, they had Suicide Squad. And they all of a sudden panicked because Suicide Squad was basically made with the exact same tone and mentality of Dark Knight, or of Batman versus Superman, I guess. So they all of a sudden started recutting the film and doing reshoots for it because they'd put out a trailer that had been very popular, using what was the music now? Queen, wasn't it? Queen, yeah. And what song from Queen? Oh my God, I'm drawing a blank. But I know it was. It wasn't Bohemian Rhapsody, was it? Yeah, it was Bohemian Rhapsody.
I almost think it was.
Yeah, they used Bohemian Rhapsody. Anyways, the trailer for Suicide Squad got a great reaction from fans, but apparently the movie was nothing like the trailer.
Oh, so
they panicked and did some reshoots, and then apparently had the marketing people that had cut the trailer had them cut the movie, and then they took. In some weird way, they took it and jammed their original cut of the film with this cut together and sort of made this thing that ended up feeling like Hot Topic the movie. But it's really weird that then the trailer would be so popular that then they went and tried to change the movie to make it more like the trailer. Very reactionary, but that was kind of bizarro.
Oh, funny.
Weird experiment. I wonder how that would work if you take more movies and go back and have the people that cut the marketing. Because I guess you would think of, like, realistically, like, if you're the filmmaker and I'm the marketing, and you make a film, and then the studio takes your film and drops it on my desk and goes, here, lets me watch it, and goes, sell it, and I'm going, holy Warren made this really bizarre, esoteric kind of strange film, and I don't know how to sell this, and I don't even know how audiences will respond. And I'm sure some people are going to like it, but it's not for a mass audience, and we're about mass marketing. We need to get butts in seats. So this might be a fun little indie film, but they're trying to sell it big. I don't know what to do with it. Here, we got to just get people out the first weekend. So now I do the take of, basically, I'm doing a 2-minute take on it of what I think would actually respond to a wider audience.
So are you actually...
Imagine if they would do it. And I would never actually advocate for this being.
I was going to say...
But imagine if they took your film away from you and gave it to marketing people and said, here's the raw stuff. Cut something out of this that you can sell.
Yeah, no. Well, I think that there has to be a bit of a simpatico between everyone. And, like, if you can't do the bait and switch. You can't all of a sudden say, oh, you know what, this is, a small film that's about something very specific. Let's say, it's a character piece, but we're going to cut it like a superhero film to get people out. Well, that's not going to help anyone else.
But this comes from people to studios. Like, sometimes it might be a studio guy that really put his weight behind your film because all of a sudden, like, your last movie was a festival darling, and now all of a sudden you make this strange little film, and his career's hanging on the line. So he's like, sell this. This has to make money the first weekend, or I'm going to kill somebody and I'm going to be out on my ass. And it's like kind of like that, like, Shark Tank environment for studio execs that if they have one miss, they're fired, and there could go their entire career. That then they gamble on some guy to be the next, like, you've seen in the past few years, people like filmmakers like Josh Trank, who made, was it him that made Monsters? And then got Godzilla?
No, that's
not
Jared.
I'm trying to remember what Josh Trank had. Josh Trank had a film that all of a sudden they thought, he Chronicle. Josh Trank did Chronicle.
Yeah.
There was a small little indie film, and it got really great response, so then they gave him Fantastic Four.
That's right, yeah.
And then they started interfering with him, and it got really bad and ugly, and the whole film turned into a fiasco, and then he was already slated to then get to direct one of the Star Wars.
Yeah, because didn't he do, like, Princess Leia's birthday?
He did that, Leia on her Leia's 16th birthday party, a YouTube video.
Yeah.
And then, so he was going to get a Star Wars, but then in between he did something, and I forget the title of it, but it was so weird, and the studio put it out that it got such a negative reaction that he basically got fired as a combination of, I'm pretty sure it was the same. It was Trank that did that thing too. I could be jamming two people to hear together, but I know he did the Chronicle. He did Chronicle, and then he did Fantastic Four, and it was just a mess. And then he got fired off of Star Wars, basically never. And he was actually at Star Wars Celebration, ready to come out on stage and get introduced as a director of one of them.
Oh,
when they walked up backstage, tapped on the shoulder and said, "No,
sorry.
You're not going out."
Oh,
boom.
Boy, yeah. Director of Monsters now. We should look at that up.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to look up here. So ramble, talk for a second here.
I can't believe that that's not on the tip of my tongue.
We're getting older, and these things don't jump to our brains all the time.
Jared,
so
I want to say Jared something.
Don't forget, also, I can clip this out. If we do too much I can just clip some of this right out.
That's true.
So,
actually, one that I'm surprised you haven't mentioned yet, and that we've talked about lots in the past, maybe not so much recently, is Thor Ragnarok. Because when that trailer came out, I remember just how much
amazing.
How much of a fan you were, and how much I enjoyed it too. But again, that's another example of what I was just talking about. Was it's always interesting when they can sort of take some music and sort of make it into it's almost
use Led Zeppelin's "Immigrant Song,"
which is used brilliantly in that trailer,
and it's used brilliantly in the film too.
Yeah.
It's a great spot. So Disney ponies up for the music, but and again, it really as you said, like Ragnarok really was another one great for giving you the tone. You're like, because Marvel had made two Thor films that had not really done well at the box office.
It didn't hit its marks.
They were kind of flat. They hadn't cracked the code on the character yet. And then they brought in director Taika Waititi, and Taika figured out how to make Thor entertaining. He figured out that this is a movie about a comic book character who's supposed to be the literal Norse god of thunder, but he's a superhero who comes to Earth to fight bad guys and monsters, but also travels the universe fighting space aliens and getting into galactic adventures. That is batshit crazy, and you need to lean into that. And that's what the movie was, and the trailer very much gave you that. We're having fun. This is insane. Let's not hide from the fact that this is an insane concept, and let's just have fun with it.
Yeah.
And then with the great music there.
Well, again, it comes back down to sound.
Yep.
Like sound is such a big piece of the experience that when it's used well, it makes for a great trailer. Just before we started this conversation, one of the trailers we watched was Jaws, and again, the way sound is used in that trailer, of course, as well as in that film, is such a great experience.
Mm-hmm.
In the trailer itself, we start off with the swimmer. Treading water, and of course the camera slowly tracking in. But then as soon as the attack happens, you hear all kinds of gurgling and screaming and all those things, which it's a whole different experience.
Okay, Gareth Edwards was
there
the director.
Go. Yeah, of course.
And I think he was also fired off of Star Wars, if I'm not mistaken here.
Line it up.
He directed Rogue One.
Oh, there you go.
Okay, so he got to direct a Star Wars, and
it was the
Josh
Lego movie guys.
They got
to
to direct 3/4 of a Star Wars movie, and then they got punted.
Fired,
Lord Miller, I think both Chris, but just it would almost be interesting to take a film and kind of like go, this is the cut we did, and then here's what the marketing people would have done with it.
No,
just as an experiment, and just sit and watch them side by side and go, well, what's up with that?
Are you talking about like a satire? Like just
almost, yeah.
Well, Remember the fan trailer era of the internet?
Yep.
So just as fast speed was coming in, then people would recut trailers and
Yep.
would recut something like The Shining as a comedy, or as a feel good family film.
Those are still funny to watch. Yeah.
Yeah. I haven't really seen a whole lot of fan trailers these days, or maybe it's just not on my YouTube algorithm. I don't know.
I don't know because you don't see that as much. I watch a lot of honest trailers still. Like honest trailers on
so
Screen
funny.
Junkies channel is pretty funny.
Yeah, it's so good. Yeah.
But yeah, so. Anyways, you got any more? Anything else pop in your brain?
Other trailers that would jump in there?
I'm starting to reach here. I'm trying to scrabble for ones that are like not just repeating myself over and over again.
Yeah. Excalibur, again, coming in maybe a little bit more of an obscure film. It's certainly it's a film that what's unfortunate is we have all these films that seems to kind of being fallen out of the sight and consciousness of people just because of the way we consume movies these days. Unless if it's on my, hey, you'll also like feed on one of these streaming services. It doesn't seem to exist, and it's not like we can go to a video place where we have, hey, Quentin recommends this film because he's a cinephile who enjoys films and wants to champion something that may be obscure. That era is gone, and so a film I would say like Excalibur, who the trailer is just phenomenal because again the use of sound. There's O Fortuna playing, all these quick cuts again, and a lot of dubbing, like which always creeped me out about that because everyone's lines was like very distinctly was dubbed over top of themselves speaking.
Yeah, I think another one that's similar in feel to that was the trailer for the original Highlander.
Very much so, exactly.
I remembered seeing that on pay TV. We had pirated pay TV, Super Channel, whatever it was.
I was thinking that too.
And I became obsessed with the Highlander. Like the trailer made me obsessed to find when it was going to be playing and watch it. And I think I watched the Highlander like over and over and over again on pay TV. And I own it on Blu-ray nowadays. And I just love that film.
Yeah.
But the trailer was like, I'm like, what is this? I have to see it. And the same thing. Didn't really explain the film in the trailer, but lots of strange cuts and whatever. And I'm like, what is this? But
yeah, no, and actually the Highlander trailer reminds me of the Excalibur trailer too.
And there was a whole era of trailers, and it's so weird that it kind of came and it was gone. The In a World era.
Oh yeah,
where every trailer was in a world where blah 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 and blah blah blah, and now they don't do that at all.
That's true. You don't have the voiceover
totally
guy.
Gone. Yep, voiceover guy is totally gone.
Well, it's certainly,
and I can't even track
eras.
that. I can't even tell you when that happened.
Yeah, each different eras, now that you talk about it, they have their own styles. Like, when trailers, let's say in the early years of cinema, up until the 60s, or maybe the latter 50s, was that very much the same, using lots of words across the screen, like adventure and
yeah. I can totally see them in my head right now.
Exactly, right. Suspense, romance, and they'd have all these things of all these bits and pieces of these films would have that would bring you out. But then all of a sudden that was gone, and then you had very much like a lot quicker cutting parts of the film. And actually, I would say in that era too, like 60s and 70s, they did a very good job of teasing you, of just giving you just a little bit of, oh my God, what is that I'm about to see? Well,
I think the early trailers were just like what you're talking about there. To me, when I would sometimes watch throwback trailers, it seems to me I would call it a motion poster.
Yeah.
That the first initial thoughts of, well, we can run clips of the movie before other movies. Well, what do we do? And the marketing people didn't know, and all they had done up to that point was posters for the lobby, which would just be like, a few images from the film with words like that. Romance, adventure. So they're like words over moving clips. And it's just like they were motion posters initially.
Exactly.
And then eventually, I guess over time, they started going, some artist person was like, well, here, we can do something different,
Yeah. Another clever one I would say in terms of marketing was Blair Witch Project from back in the day.
I don't even remember the marketing for it.
Yeah, well, originally it was a festival darling, and again, you can't quite, everything's of its own era, and that was just around the time of internet, high speeds, and people going to the internet for a little bit more of the movie marketing. Mm-hmm. And this is a small film that was doing well, and kind of leaned into the fact that it was definitely one of the early films. I guess it's debatable about the found footage It was one of the first found footage types of films. There's another film called New Jersey Devil that was also used that.
Mm-hmm.
But Blair Witch was probably the one that sort of really brought it into the mainstream. And people were getting confused thinking that this was actually a documentary of a found footage film.
It became like an urban myth.
It became an urban myth.
That it actually was found footage.
And it certainly leaned into that because as they would, poster wherever the film was playing in a festival, they would put up missing the actors' faces and put up
missing posters
and use that as part of their marketing. And certainly that was also part of some of the trailers they would use. And it was just because of the footage itself was so cheap. It was like video stock and really cheap 16 millimeter stock that it gave a really creepy kind of vibe to what you were watching. The interviewer interviewing some person fishing or some local person that you can tell is not an actor, and it gave this real kind of creepiness to it. That it was marketed in a way that brought everyone out. And I can't remember if it was that one or if it was one of the other found footage film that came out shortly after, a couple of years after, where it just showed audiences' reactions, and that was actually
one of the it was one of the haunted house type ones, whatever the hell those are. It was just all audience clips, screaming at the scary jumps.
moments, which was, I'm like, okay, that's kind of interesting too.
Not the kind of thing that's going to work over and over and over again, but as a creative one-off, we're going to do this instead. Like, we won't even show them footage. We'll just be like, oh my God, this is how scary it is.
Yeah. Oh, here's the audience on the scary ride. Yeah. Paranormal Activity.
That's it. Yeah. There you go. Yep. The one that was made dirt cheap in a house.
Exactly, which is very much like a Blair Witch.
Yeah.
Because that was, made for like $30,000 or whatever it was before it sold.
I think those are part of the urban myths too, that when you look at them and you go, and then you didn't make it for this.
Well, but they made it for apparently like $27,000, but then they sold it to Artisan, and Artisan dumped like another $1.5 million into the marketing.
And fixing it and stuff like that, and finishing it properly. So.
Exactly. Yeah. But, yeah. Any other trailers come to mind?
Oh, I'm starting to draw a blank here to think of ones. I'm trying to. I remember I really got emotional the trailer for Rocky Balboa.
Okay,
and we might have talked about this back on the Rocky episode last fall. I thought that was a really well done. Yeah, it had the bell dinging, and it was again very much with the nostalgia
and the music.
It built well, and it's kind of like, it didn't give you the whole story, but it sort of gave you the high moments, and you had the story, or the music rather, the iconic Rocky music, and I think it had a really great tagline to it that I remember at the end of it, at the trailer, it says, the greatest underdog story of our time is back for one last round, and I just got a chill right now saying it, that trailer, that one hit me pretty good back then, that I was like, oh my God, this is really, really fantastic.
And it may be getting another round, apparently. There's talk about another Rocky film.
What?
Yeah.
Not continuing the Creed, instead doing another Rocky?
Doing another Rocky.
How?
Well, and apparently Stallone has a story lined up in which it's very much the Creed story, where he's going to be training, I guess it's an illegal, somebody illegally migrated to U.S. and he's going to be trained to box, who's apparently really angry and has a tough time.
Okay, so Rocky's training, not fighting.
He's training, not. Well, yeah.
So it's just like a Creed reboot.
It's a Creed. It's a retelling of Creed, and apparently there's also possibly a prequel, a Rocky prequel, which was trying to be sold to streaming services.
Stallone, you can do other things.
Well,
because he's also milking Rambo out for one more in September, and it looks more like Rambo Home Alone.
Yeah, and here's the thing.
Have you seen that trailer?
No.
The Rambo one?
No, I haven't.
Okay, the Rambo one, they basically, this is like I've been, griping all day. They tell you the whole story in the trailer.
Yes.
Okay, so they tell you the whole story in the trailer.
Okay.
They show, you can infer from it that Rambo is back in the States. At the end of the last film, which was 10 years ago, he comes home to America, and his dad still had the family ranch. So now Rambo's living on the family ranch. I guess his dad is gone, and I don't know if Rambo had like some long-lost kid or a niece or nephew or some family member, whatever, that somehow runs afoul of drug cartels.
Okay.
And Rambo looks like, I don't know if he actually goes to Mexico or just to, some city with in the slum, and he confronts the cartel and kind of like does a little counting coup, tweaks one of them on the nose or something, does a thing, whatever, to piss them off. So they're going to come after him. So he retreats back to the ranch, and the second and the third act of the film looks like it's Home Alone, because Rambo like sets up all these traps and shit like that, and like big nasty looking spiky rakes that jump up and hit guys in the chest and bombs and whatever, and he just turns his ranch into Home Alone. And I'm assuming he's going to die at the climax of this thing, but
boy.
And I'm like, God, like, I know I'm probably going to pay money to go see it, but I'm like, man, but what? Another Rocky?
Yeah, apparently, yeah. It was just too bad because he did such a good job of passing the torch in Creed.
He did. Like Rocky Balboa was really good, and then I was like iffy about Creed, but then Creed was really good.
Creed 2
was not as good.
Well, the trailer sold it.
The trailer was amazing. To talk about trailers. To get back on topic, the trailer was really awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, the trailer's what sold it. Unfortunately, the film wasn't as strong as Creed. But I thought at that point, at Rocky,
good walkaway.
This is a point to let Rocky retire, and no, apparently not.
I think we're gonna have to do an episode upcoming. Remind me to make a note of it later on franchises that need to stop. When it's time to stop, because we can talk Rocky, we can talk Rambo, we can talk Die Hard, we can talk Terminator.
Sure.
Maybe we'll tie it in. Maybe we'll do it sometime come leading up to the Terminator. There's probably going to be a double episode then, because Alex and I are for sure, and you're welcome to join in on that one too. I think we're going to be doing an actual we're going to talk probably about the whole Terminator nonsensical franchise that's gone on. Mainly, we're going to heap a lot of love on Terminator and Terminator 2, and then dump a lot of shit on everything that's come since, and talk about whatever's going to happen with Dark Fate, and then we might even do what we did with Rocky, where we followed up with a review of Dark Fate afterwards, come back here and just immediately do an immediate post-game. But I think it could also be in that time leading up, maybe as the build-up, we could talk about franchises that need to go away. You could put Alien in there, you could put Predator in there.
Oh, yeah.
Franchises that were once had the luster and were awesome and have now gone right into the sewer.
Yeah. And maybe even transversely have franchises.
And sometimes have come back.
Hey, maybe there's franchises it's time to look at again.
When we did the Rocky one, it went up and down. Or down and up, rather. It started high, went into the slums, pulled back up, and achieved some greatness again, and now maybe hung around once again too long.
Like you mentioned Highlander, there's certainly a time and place when Highlander certainly went to the well
the first, many times too often. The Highlander was awesome, and then it never recovered. It just kept going bad.
Yeah, but maybe now's the time that maybe there's a story in there somewhere. I don't know.
A retelling of it?
Yep. Yeah, retelling of Highlander.
Cool. Well, anyways, I think on that note, we will wind this up here. Once again, I don't even know. I think it's now also another running gag that is a dead horse for beating, is that I forget to think up a closer, a stinger line here.
All right, well,
so I don't know. I'm just going to say that until next time, in a world where I don't know how to close this out. Warren, thanks for coming by.
Hey, thanks for having me.
And we'll see you at the movies.
Yeah, see you next time.